welcome to Before Brunch TV, a show where women are pouring into each other and then their glasses. I'm your host, Stephanie, and I'm so excited. I have some beautiful fashionistas, stylish women here today, and we're talking all things fashion, lifestyle, and beauty. So first, thank you ladies for being on the show.
Thank
you. All
you.
look beautiful.
Thank you.
And so the first thing I want to get into is, what did like fashion and lifestyle and beauty look like for you growing up?
Well, I grew up in South Florida. I'm a born and raised Floridian. And growing up, I didn't really see a lot of women that look like me. I look around this room and we're all either chocolate or dark skinned. And I think it really just became a thing now. I think it just became popular in my opinion. I didn't really see a lot of women who were glorified for their dark skin. I would say maybe Naomi Campbell, but even then, outside of her, we didn't have like the Angela Bassett now. People love her. Issa Rae, Ryan Destiny, those women are now, you know, loved for their chocolate skin, but colorism was very real, especially where I'm from. You have a lot of Latinos, you have a lot of folks from the Caribbean, and light was right. That's how I grew up.
Yeah.
So it took me some time to get accustomed to just loving myself, my natural hair. You know, I would have never thought 10 years ago I would be wearing my natural hair and embracing it. But those things, my blackness, that's something I had to grow to love.
Well, I grew up here in Hampton, Virginia, but my mother was from New York in Brooklyn, and she actually had the opportunity to be a model in New York when she was growing up in her early teen years, or late teen years, early 20s. But she became a businesswoman, so she pretty much let that go because she also had a gap like herself, so she missed a lot of opportunities because granted she had the height, she was a little darker in complexion than me, but because she had that gaps weren't not a big thing in fashion, so she was not selected. So she went on to get her college education and she became a commercial loan officer and eventually moved here, so she was more of a businesswoman. And yes, she had the look, but she pretty much like put modeling back on the back burner. So then as I grew up, I had the lighter complexion, so they were like, oh, well, you have the look, you know, you can go and do it. And now Gap is more accepted. However, in my own experience, I've still experienced where my complexion is still not good enough.
Well, I guess I have to agree with these ladies too. When I think about growing up, I think to me Victoria's Secret was really huge. So it was always the Victoria's Secret model, and like her, she said Naomi Campbell. I think I only really remember Tyra Banks. You know, we used to see her on Fresh Prince too, so she was really popular all over the place. But definitely, it's not like it is now. Like she said, the Issa Raes and Ryan Destiny. It's not celebrated like it is.
Yeah, and I think over the last, I would say even just this year, it's been even more celebrated because all on the unfortunate social justice things that have happened. But like you said, growing up, I mean, we're all in different fields. Like I know Simone, you're in television, Ashley, you're in modeling, and Emily, you're a stylist, and I'm also working in TV too. Like you didn't see a lot of people that look like us in those fields growing up. I mean, you had your Oprah, you had your Naomi,
right.
Even fashion stylists. I couldn't name a black fashion stylist from back then, but they didn't also celebrate the fashion industry behind the scenes back then either.
Right, it
so
was
like
pretty much quiet.
Yeah, like you working in the fashion industry as a stylist and the things that you've seen and work with, how is that?
Well, I'll say I feel like I'm learning now about black stylists that were back then. You know, June Ambrose. She's been in the game for years, but did I ever hear about her or see her? You know, during Fashion Week, I went to a talk and she was on the panel and she was talking about how she styled Little Kim. I mean, this was when we were growing up, but I never heard about her. You know, I'm just learning about these people now that were, you know, apparently big back then.
Yeah, and Ashley, you being a model, you've walked in runways and you've done this. How's that experience been for you, and sometimes maybe even being only the brown girl?
I've been in a lot of magazines that have been published throughout the world, and I just actually was published in one about 2-3 weeks ago, and it came in the mail this week, and I was showing my girlfriend and she was so excited. And she noticed, it's only 2 black girls. I said, oh, that's always how it is. I'm pretty much always the only black girl. And she's like, huh? And I'm like, that's just how it is. I mean, it's whether we're in the United States, in Asia, in Europe, even in the island worlds and things like that. Now, I have done photo shoots in like Jamaica and Dominican Republic, and they actually love us. it was actually honored, kind of like, because it was like, oh, they treated me like a god the entire photo shoot. But then when we come here, it's like, wow, it's a whole different
bottom tier.
Right, it's a whole different world, and it's like you just don't have that respect. I can't agree where now they are using like new celebrities are getting like more entwined, and they're using them with the fashion and the styling. Tiana Taylor is one person that I actually look up to, because years ago she made the statement like they didn't give her the opportunity, so she was going to set the table, and here we are in 2020, and she literally has set the table for everything that she wanted to do, and she has become successful in doing it. Now people are hiring her to, you know, produce their fashion shows, produce their music videos, and it's just like, hey, if they don't want to let us in, we'll come and set our own table.
And piggybacking off of what you said, Ashley, you said Tiana Taylor. So her recent album, she decided to recreate a Grace Jones photo shoot. And she said one of the things that she loves about Grace Jones allowed her to embrace her harsh features.
Yes.
And I wouldn't even call them harsh, but they're just distinct. You know what I'm saying? Her cheekbones and her lips and her eyes. So I love that you have people like her who are paying tribute, paying homage to those who came before, because Grace Jones, I mean, I remember her from the movie Boomerang, but she wasn't really put out there like that. She wasn't seen as beautiful.
Yes.
And now we see that.
So you're like kind of reporting on stuff like this in the lifestyle, and sometimes maybe even being the only African-American journalist out there. Like, what is that experience like when you're reporting on something where you're like, oh, they really need this like Black perspective?
I will say I've definitely found my voice over the last few years, because it was almost taboo, where it's like, I don't want to just come in and just make it blackity black, 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 you know? But at the same time, I think the folks need to see that. You know what I'm saying? When a month ago, I started wearing my hair natural, and I got so many comments from white people, Black people. They're like, oh my God, I love your hair. And especially Black women saying, you know, wow, like, I love the fact that you made that transition. I love the fact that you are just embracing your natural beauty. Not saying I didn't love the way you were wearing your hair before, because you trust me, I love my protective styles. I love my wigs, my go-to, because this is a lot of maintenance, but I love the fact that people are open to it.
Do you all feel like respected, or do you feel like you have to kind of like go that extra mile? Like, I know the styling world is different from the modeling world is different from the TV world. Like, what is that experience like for you?
Well, I'd say, you know, it's all about the look, you know, especially if you're going into a showroom and you want to pull something, it's all about the look. And, you know, I saw one stylist, he called out a brand because they would only lend to like a Black actress or Black singer if their stylist was white. Wow. Now that's pretty huge.
I mean, but it's like you're putting it on a Black body.
Right, even if they're an A-lister, they wanted a white stylist. So it is all about the look. It's about, you know, who you know and all of that, definitely.
Do you think, like, as being a Black stylist, and you're in New York City, so it's like, it feels like it's very competitive up there. Oh, yeah. Like, do you feel like if you were to maybe send somebody else to go do a pull for like a Gucci or somebody, they would be able to get it easier than you would?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I used to actually support some of the stylists in the area, and I mean, if I mention their name at least, you know, then it
drop real quick.
Right, okay. you know, and that's what I would do too if I wanted to use that contact for my own self. I'd have to big up, well, this is who I used to work with, you know, this is who you know. Then like, okay, so it's the association, you know, so it definitely is all a part of it.
Yeah. So myself, I would say that 2 scenarios I can give. As a model, I've experienced where, because there was a room full of nothing but judges that were all white, when I walked in the room, they told me I was plus size. And it was like, wait a minute, little me? When people tell me I need to eat. So I was like, wait a second. And it really, when they ended up doing the show, I did end up doing media for the show, so I still got to cover for them. And it literally was only about 2 or 3 Black girls who walked in the show, and they were literally like size zeros. And it was like, so do you not accept us because of how our bodies have curves? Because I mean, I still wear the same size. 4 is the same, you know, Caucasian model that's here, but we're just shaped differently, right. So it looks like we're different, but we are still the same size. And then I also am a CEO of Virginia Kids Fashion Week, and in the process of when we were putting on our show 2 seasons ago, you know, going out trying to get sponsorships and trying to see what department stores would want to hire or sponsor our shows, about 2 or 3 major department stores were like disregarding what I was saying, and they kept saying, well, we need to speak to the founder or the CEO, and I'm like, you know, I'm right here, that's me, I'm doing all the footwork. And they just kept, it was like they were non-responsive to it. And I'm like, are you not understanding what I'm saying?
I don't know if it's like a good or bad thing, but because I work at a news station, for some reason that gives me some credibility when I reach out to people. I know there are people, there are organizations who may be looked over. And so that's why I feel like it's my duty to put those underrepresented organizations, people, entrepreneurs, businesses out there, because there are going to be people who look like no one's going to care about that, but there are people who care. And I want to, like I said, use this platform. That's the reason why I believe God put me in this position, to use my platform. If I'm just going to use it to only make myself, to elevate myself, what's the purpose? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the purpose? Because I didn't get here on my own. Someone reached behind and pulled me up, so I should do the same.
I think it's more so just having a reputable company versus the actual color being a thing. I mean, granted, sometimes color does play a part, but I think it's just people knowing who you are. If they know who you are, then, oh, okay, it's recognizable, we'll support it. But if they have no idea or never heard of it, they're not gonna stop and take the time to Google, oh, let me read about who this is. Oh yeah, I should support them.
And I'm just in local news. Like, Stephanie, I know you've covered entertainment, and I've heard stories from colleagues who are living in LA and New York and how they have to fight to get an interview with a certain celebrity. And even if the celebrity is in agreement, if the publicist doesn't see they are qualified or they don't think this interview is of value, they'll be like, oh, thank you, we'll just keep it moving.
They'll skip I've watched it, seen people skip the
And you
interview
told me
line.
stories.
Literally, I mean, you see it happen, you're like, I'm right here next to I'm in first position. You literally skip me because I'm black, but you went to the next person who had like a blog. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's like because I didn't look the part that you thought I was gonna be, you know? Wow. And so speaking of like the designer world, you know, I feel like right now black is a trend, especially like all these designers, like everybody's like, we're gonna be for the people, we're gonna make, 18 million more shades, making lists and what we're gonna do. How do y'all feel about like the exploitation of like brands in terms of black people? And how do you feel about kind of like on social media, there's these things that go around, like once black people start buying a certain brand, it cheapens it. Like, there's like a joke, like the baby daddy t-shirt is the Burberry t-shirt, or, everybody getting these Birkin bags, now it's, cheap. So how do y'all feel about that? Yeah, right.
They were saying that it's not, they came and said that it's not even that many made per year. So how is it possible all of these black women now have all these Birkin bags? Which
like, how do y'all feel about that? Like once we get towards maybe a certain level and you get an elevated brand, it's like, oh, now the brand's cheap because a black person has it.
Well, when I think about the exploitation and all these brands, all of a sudden, we're gonna donate. We're gonna have 10%, like Sephora or some. I don't know the exact number, but a certain percent of our brands are gonna be black owned. Sometimes I question if it's really. If it's, from the heart, or is it just they're following the trend? Yeah, because I mean, in New York, I've worked with, some white people that have tried to help me just a little bit, move up the ladder, the cosign, but, some of them just decided to stop working with me, didn't give me any type of explanation. And of course, I really felt it was probably because of the color of my skin, because I'm looking at their other clients. Their other clients are white, no other black clients, So then when all this started, Black Lives Matter, I see them posting black, the black square and all that. And I'm just like, how? Like, I didn't get that feeling from you. I didn't feel that connection with you. I could have been like how you could have fed into the black community, because I always say too, we have a responsibility if we do get into a position, just like she's using her platform. We have to feed back and we have to continue to work really, really hard to get as high up as we can so that we can bring others with us. You know, so that's how I feel about it.
I think it's just symbolism, and it's cute. Symbolism is cute. You know, it is. It's cute where, you know, yeah, we're gonna post the black square, or we're going to feature more black brands. But to me, when you start hiring people to work for you, when you start hiring people who can help make those decisions, who can bring more diversity and inclusion into your organization, you won't have incidents like H&M having a black boy in a sweater saying "King of the Jungle." Things like that won't happen if you have someone who represents us, who can say, yeah, I don't think that's a great idea. So you can have symbolism and you can represent, wear your braids and do all of that. That's great. But until there's change within the system, I just think it's pointless.
I would have to agree. I was going to speak on like longevity, because change doesn't happen overnight. So I mean, like she said, it's cute now, you know, give a baby a piece of candy right now, of course it'll make them stop crying, but once that piece of candy is gone within 10 to 15 minutes, they're back to the same feelings that they had and emotions that they had in the beginning. So I think it would, you know, time will tell. And I think like how there some brands are using, like they're bringing back the old FUBU, or they're bringing back different brands that may have been out from back in the 90s, and they're trying to like do, I guess, like collaborations with it and stuff. So yeah, it's cute, but let's see if we actually can have it 5 years from now. Let's see, you know, eventually that the leading stylist in your office is black.
Yes.
Let's see that you know, you do a photo shoot and it's the front of the magazine and the model is black. Then we can see, okay, the room has been shaken, we've made big noise.
Yeah, I think the key is that leadership. I mean, yeah, you can hire all black staff all you want, but like, who's leading?
Exactly.
You know, like who's at the top? Because yes, it's cute to hire people, give them a paycheck, but at the end of the day, if your whole corporate office
It's still white.
it doesn't mean anything. You're doing almost a disservice. Like, no, put me in a position to make some decisions.
But I think a lot of that also comes with because we've had to fight to try to get to where we are not gonna say more advanced, but more advanced. I mean, and it's it is what it is, I guess, but sometimes we get into those positions so then they feel infuriated. And it's like, now we're just the black girl in the room who thinks she knows everything, but it's just because we have that light and we have that knowledge that we've worked our tail off to study and gain. Now we're frowned upon because, oh, they think she wants to come in. No, just, you know, I'm just like you. Give me that same opportunity. We can win all together and, you know, be the best and better than what we are if we just work together.
Yeah, I want to talk about like the beauty industry. I feel like, I know I've had like some crazy, like terrible beauty experiences in terms of like with like makeup or something. Where you're like, I'm like, you put a tone on me that was like not my shade, like 10 times not my shade. And so, you know, when Rihanna came out with Fenty, I mean, amazing. Everybody like went crazy. Now every brand's got like 50 shades, and I think, you know, whatever. But I think what have been some of your beauty experiences and traumas, like with trying to find, like, because it is trauma, because you don't realize until like that girl, when that camera flashes, you're like, oh,
wait a minute, that is
not pretty much like I'm in a cast.
Like, what are some of your like your experiences with that, and what's your hope for like the beauty industry moving forward?
As a model, I'll go first on this one, but I've walked in plenty of rooms preparing for either a photo shoot or a fashion show, and all the makeup artists are white. And it used to bother me, but then what I would do now is, because I'm just not gonna let anyone touch my face, so they always say bring your own makeup too, just in case. And then I'll just sit around, and I don't mind being the last model whose face is done, because I'm gonna watch and see who looks good and who can do good. And I'm gonna sit in whoever to me is the best person, and then I'll because to me you're playing on my face, but it's not a toy or a game, so you can't make me look crazy. I need to blend, because, you know, like you said, for one, I'm already against the odds. I'm the black girl here. I don't want my picture to be the worst picture also too, and I'm the only black girl, so no, something has to give.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think, you know, having more diversity, but a lot of times I can say in New York Fashion Week, where I've even had friends who do hair, and I try to get them, hey, I can get you in here to do this show. It can help your network and build your portfolio and things, but they're like, no, I'm not going there because they don't accept us, or I'm going to be the only black girl. But why not be that Martin Luther King of that generation
Yep.
and come and be the only black girl that's here, because then you might motivate your next friend, or you might come here and somebody can be speculating. That happened to me my very first year at Fashion Week. First time ever doing a show, I was terrified as heck, but the whole time there was a company observing me, and they ended up calling me 30 days later, and they booked, like they hired me, and I was with the agency. And it was just like, you really never know who's watching, so why not take that leap?
I know as a kid, so before I got into journalism, I was a dancer. And from the age of 3 to 18, I remember going to Walgreens with my mom and looking at foundation. It's like mocha, caramel, and it stopped there. And I'm like, this is not my shade at all. So if you look at my first 5-6 years, like my dance recital photos, it's all the way off. Yeah, like a ghost. You see my face and then the rest of my body, it just does not match. And then going into television, it was the same thing. I was like, man, this is hard. Like trying to find the right shade, trying to find the right concealer. And they've become more advanced. Like I like Bare Minerals, even like MAC and things like that. They've gotten better over the years because at first, you just couldn't find anything that really matched my skin tone, or it just stopped at a certain point. Like I said, caramel,
coffee,
and that was it. And that was it. So I love that Rihanna came and changed the game and said there are multiple shades. You can't have multiple shades of white people or lighter complexions, multiple shades, and then 3 shades for brown. Brown, black people. Like it doesn't make sense. So I love the fact that she made other organizations take a look at their inventory and change it up. So I love the fact that she did that.
Well, actually, I had a makeup artist put some foundation on me that was just way too dark. And I was getting ready for one of my fashion segments, and I literally cried when I saw myself. I cried. I was just so disappointed because, I was about to do my segment. I wanted to look my best. I wanted to put my best foot forward. And her excuse was, well, you're a beautiful black girl. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And I'm not trying to not be my shade, but like just because I'm beautiful black doesn't mean put dark on me, you know? So, that was really traumatizing for me because it just affected my whole mood, going forward. And I didn't have time. It was like I had to work. So it's really important, that Rihanna, and it's just great that she did that,
Yeah, I'm loving what all these brands do, and I think it goes even deeper in terms of, I don't think just because you're white doesn't mean you don't know how to do brown skin. Just as brown skin, every brown skin girl I've had doing makeup doesn't know how to do makeup. I think it's about like educating yourself on like, hey, what are the undertones, or what would look best on this person's skin, because you can be black and not know how to do some black makeup or hair too. So I think it goes both ways. What are your hopes for like the whole like beauty lifestyle industry and like in your particular career for like our race, maybe especially for women?
I'm just hoping that they really start to include, more brown skinned girls. There are some ladies that came out with a collective where they're getting together all of the black people in the beauty and the stylists and those different industries. So I'm hoping that brands really start to hire. Hire me for your campaign. Hire me to, just hire us. I think that's important. Just like we were saying, starting at the top too, hiring people at that level as well.
Yeah, I think I can counter off of that. Basically just giving us that opportunity, because I always tell people, honestly, they love us. I'm also a college professor, and 9 times out of 10, when you look at who's the teacher of African American history, they're white. They love going to Africa, studying us. They love our food. They love our culture, our music. So like you say, how come we never heard of Misa, or how come we've never really heard of June? I think it's more so because that it was too before its time. And so sometimes when it's before its time, it's not accepted because they didn't understand it, but they really do love it. And now, they've grasped it, because you'll see hippies are basically people who do the things that we do in our African American culture.
Breathe.
But yeah, like everything when it comes to the hippie. And I also saw a meme just here recently on Instagram, and it was saying how it had a white guy with messy hair, suit, collar, businessman. Then it had a business African American guy. He was handsome, but he had dreads. And it said how corporate America accepts this messy look that looks like a wet dog, basically. But the dreads are unacceptable, and how does that make him that professional? And that's just a very deep topic, because that's just, when they teach us don't judge a book by its cover, so how are you still doing that in the everyday practice of corporate America?
So when I first got into this industry, natural hair was not accepted. And I graduated from college now 6 years ago. And now, with the Crown Act, it's okay to wear your hair however you see fit. And I think that's what I want. I just want people to be okay with however I want to represent myself, however I see fit, it's okay. Whether I want to wear protective style, because you have those black folks, the naturalistas, who condemn those who wear wigs. But I'm like, you don't know if I have alopecia. You don't know if it just takes a long time for me to do my hair. Like, this just took too long, you know what I'm saying? It just takes a long time, but it's just however I want to represent myself, whether it's my natural hair or my long, Naomi Campbell inches. 32 inches, you know what I'm saying? It should just be okay. And I think we are moving to that place in media in front of the camera. So however I want to represent myself, and not just with black people, but with any woman, any man, I think it should be okay, because at the end of the day, if you want us to be diverse, if you want us to reach out to those who are behind the scenes, who are the viewers, then you have to also diversify those who are speaking to them.
For them to be able to relate, period.
And I think, honestly, I feel like we're all doing it. We're being the representation.
Right.
You're in the forefront. You're telling the stories. You've created your own fashion week. You're styling your clients and the celebrities. Like, I think us continuing on and not giving up is going to set that tone.
Not giving up.
Because y'all know it's hard.
Right.
Ready to give up every day.
Right. So tired.
So I thank you, ladies, for being here. I appreciate your presence. And before we leave, I'm going to read a positive affirmation, because I love to leave everybody with just a word of inspiration.
Awesome.
So, Simone, if you can read yours first.
All right, I nourish my mind with healthy thoughts about my body.
I let go of fear so that fear can let go of me.
My mental health is just as important as my physical health.
Yes. And then mine is, I'm open to new and exciting opportunities. So,
Yes.
cheers to opening your doors, y'all.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
Doors.
And you can find more information about us at Before Brunch TV. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.